Howdy, Space Rangers, Captain Phoenix here, and I guess it's very fitting that I'm making this video today, mostly because I'm just like on a Star Wars high right now. I rewatched all the movies recently to prepare for the new Mando and Grogu movie coming out next year, which is, of course, a big reason as to why I'm making this video. So, as is tradition, I figured I'd make a video covering all the new Star Wars projects that are going to be coming out in the coming year, specifically next year. And I'll be talking about what I'm excited about them, what I'm looking forward to from them, what I'm not so excited about, and we'll just be covering the wide range of them. I make these videos mostly just to look back on them and see whether or not my expectations were met or surpassed, or just didn't meet up to them based on the projects that came out. I made a video similar to this back in 2022. I did one in 2023. I missed out last year's video, so I'm coming back with this year. So I didn't talk about the projects that were coming out in 25, but I will be talking about the projects that come out in 26. So yeah, anyway, that's the gist of the video, the story. And without further ado and without wasting your time, let's talk about the projects. Let's talk about the ones we know we're getting, the ones we at least have some solid information on, and I will trickle down to the ones that aren't as talked about. And because there's very little to talk about next year, I might even branch out into what's going on in 2027 and beyond. The first project we are 100% for sure know we're getting is the Mandalorian and Grogu movie coming out in May of 2026. Now, for the five people who don't know this, The Mandalorian is a TV show on Disney Plus that came out in 2019, I think just a month before The Rise of Skywalker came out. It ran for 3 seasons, the third season coming out in 2023, and the fourth season, from what I remember, was actually scrapped and replaced with a movie. The script for season 4 was replaced with the script for the movie you've seen right before you. The existence of this movie is huge in every sense of the word. Not only is this the first Disney Plus TV show that was so successful, they just said, yeah, give it a movie, a full-on theatrical movie in cinemas. It's also the first Star Wars movie we're getting in 7 years. Again, I know we had a lot of Star Wars TV shows, so it doesn't feel like it, but just a quick reminder to the audience, the last Star Wars movie we got was The Rise of Skywalker in 2019. So Mandalorian and Grogu is essentially a new era of Star Wars in the cinemas. And I do think it's very interesting and funny that Disney's deciding to kick off this new era with The Mandalorian of all things. Again, I know it was hugely successful on Disney Plus, but how many Star Wars casuals are gonna go to their way to watch this show when all they know is the 9 films? Maybe they'll think this is a new trilogy, but again, given its place in the timeline, it's just very strange considering it takes place after Return of the Jedi, but before Force Awakens. Anyway, I'm not here to talk much about the story of this movie. I've already dissected the trailer in another video I made a couple months back when the trailer first did come out. All I'm going to talk about is that this movie is big. The existence of this movie is a big deal. However, the Star Wars community does not seem too jazzed about it, nor are they treating it like a big deal. I have not seen a lot of excitement or anticipation for this movie. A lot of Star Wars fans I've seen are just like, oh, this movie exists. That's great, I guess. It's coming out in May. That's cool, I guess. And that's the reception that this trailer has gotten. It's either apathetic or it's very nonchalant. Not a lot of people care too much about this movie. I can't really blame them too much. The teaser trailer, I am calling it a teaser trailer. I know Disney officially calls it a trailer based off the title of the video. So even though it is officially titled trailer, this is very much a teaser trailer. We know nothing about the story. Teaser trailers don't give you the story, they give you the vibe of the movie. So in all senses of the words, this is a teaser trailer outside the title. With that said, I know that the teaser didn't give us much of what the story is going to be about, except Mando and Grogu going on shenanigans. I have predicted that they're going to be fighting the Empire, and we'll probably get some tease to the Thrawn movie that'll come out later, which, yes, I will talk about the Thrawn movie when we get there. But yeah, so there's not really much I can dissect about the story. I've already dissected it. I was just talking about the fan reception. The fan reception seems to border on nonchalant and apathetic. I think a lot of people are just more or less done with Star Wars, and trust me, I will not blame them. After watching Rise of Skywalker again, I do not blame blame these people for not being interested in Star Wars in general. With that said, I still like The Mandalorian show. I'm one of the few people who don't despise season 3 with a burning passion. So I am interested to see what this movie is going to do for us and where it's going to take Star Wars in the cinemas next. Again, I don't know what Disney's planning to do here, what this new era of movies they're planning to throw out is, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, I'm just glad Star Wars is actually coming back to cinema. So, maybe less TV shows, more movies, please. Coming up next, we have Maul Shadow Lord. Do not let the footage before you trick you. This is a fan-made trailer using clips from the Clone Wars and Bad Batch, so don't take any of this seriously. I just want to use this clip to cover what I'm saying. Anyway, Darth Maul, well, not Darth Maul, he's not Darth anymore. The show is called Maul Shadow Lord. So, back at Star Wars Celebration earlier this year, it was announced that we're getting a new animated show after the Bad Batch. For those who don't know, there's always a new main Star Wars animated show that we get every now and again. From 2008 to 2013, it was the Clone Wars. 2014 to 2018, it was Rebels, and then we finished off Clone Wars in 2020. Then in 2021, we got we had Resistance as well, which went from like 2018 to 2020, and then we had Bad Batch from 2021 to 2024. So as it stands, we're currently in a Star Wars animated show drought. So the next show that was announced is Maul Shadow Lord, which is set to come out in 2026. This title card is official. This title card, the one that was revealed at Celebration, this is official. The trailer is fake, but this title card is official. So this is what the show is going to be about. From what I understand, the art style of the show is going to be very similar to Clone Wars, while also having a sort of distinct style, a bit more stylized style to it, like a bit more of a 2D, sharper edge style to it. So clearly the show is going to have a high budget, which I really like. Another thing that the show is going to be about, from what was understood at Celebration, the show is going to be about Darth Maul running his crime syndicate, the crime syndicate being Crimson Dawn, if I'm not wrong. So this show takes place in between the Clone Wars and Rebels, or if you want to get bigger movie perspective, in between Revenge of the Sith and Solo. And that's basically when we know about the timeline. We do know that Maul is in Solo, if you've watched the Solo movie, and he's running the Crimson Dawn syndicate. He's the leader of the Crimson Dawn. Kira works for him. The other guy who let Crimson Dawn work for him. So he's very much like a crime boss in this era of the timeline. It was also theorized that he'll be taking on an apprentice in this show, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But if that's the case, then yeah, Maul will have an apprentice, and from what I've gathered, she will most likely die by the end of the show. I do have a theory, or at the very least a prediction, that the show will cross over with Solo, like it'll take place early on, during the early days of the Empire, and then we'll cross past Solo, and then it will end sometime before Rebels, just shortly before Rebels, because as we know, in Rebels, Darth Maul doesn't have a crime syndicate anymore. No one works for him, and he's not running any crazy trades. So we know he loses his crime syndicate at some point. So my prediction is that the show's going to end with him losing his crime syndicate, and then we'll see how he becomes the almost hobo-like guy in Rebels. And when he loses his crime syndicate, he's most likely going to lose his apprentice as well. So I think the show is called Shadow Lord because Maul is not a Sith in this show. He's very much a Sith pretender, or at the very least someone who's just using the dark side to gain a foothold of the galaxy, which I think is cool. I think it's about time we did get a darksider we did get a villain who's a darksider trying to gain power for themselves without being a Sith. I think that's a really interesting story for Star Wars to tackle. I do wish it was a different character other than Maul, because Maul's already a pre-established character with a lot of story already. But again, the idea of a darksider who's just like running a crime syndicate or doing something to gain more power for himself without being a Sith, that's a really cool idea. So all I can hope is that the show is good. From what I can gather, Dave Filoni isn't fully working on it. He's come up with some ideas and is kind of like in the writer's room, but he's not actively developing the show. With that said, though, Sam Witwer, the voice of Darth Maul from the Clone Wars show, is coming back to voice the character, and I think that's awesome. Coming up next, it's Ahsoka Season 2. This one was also confirmed at Star Wars Celebration earlier this year, that Ahsoka will begin a Season 2, and it is in the filming process right now. Like, we're in the filming stage of the season right now. I am so glad this show is not cancelled, and I'm glad it was successful enough for Disney to greenlight a Season 2. As for Season 3, I don't think that's likely. I doubt Disney is wanting to give a Season 3. From what I heard, it was even a struggle for them to greenlight Season 2, so I highly doubt we're going to get a Season 3, and Dave Filoni will finish his story. Dave Filoni is gonna make Ahsoka season 1 and 2, part 1 and 2 of his trilogy, and then the Thrawn movie will be part 3 of his finale. That's the way I predict it, at least. Now, I know the Ahsoka show is very much kind of controversial in the fandom. You either like it or you don't like it, or you see it as mediocre. There's a lot of varying opinions of the show. I like it, but I also wouldn't go out of my way to defend it like my life depends on it. Second channel videos notwithstanding. The second channel videos are because, wow, the guy critiquing the show, Ahsoka, was like really dumb in that case. With that said, I am still excited for Season 2. I'm excited to see what Dave Filoni has cooking in store for the mythology of Star Wars, the father, son, daughter kind of thing. From what we know, Season 2 as well, we know that Akbar and Thrawn are gonna be butting heads. So Thrawn is most likely gonna make himself public and a known face in the galaxy, so it's pretty cool. And I don't know what else is gonna happen in Season 2. We know that Ahsoka and Sabine are trapped on Peridia, and Ezra's back with the main crew, so I'm interested to see what dynamics we have there. I am a bit worried though, because I did put a lot of trust in Filoni Filoni to get the character dynamics right in season 1, and he mostly just didn't deliver. I was really hoping we get a flashback episode of sorts where Ahsoka meets Luke. That didn't happen. Ezra reunited with the Ghost Crew just wasn't as emotional as I thought it was going to be. Same with him reuniting with Sabine. There was like a lot of sauce missing from that whole thing. If anything, I do kind of hope we get more Anakin interactions or world between world interactions. I think that would be really cool. Exploring that concept of Star Wars has always interested me. I know people really hate time travel in Star Wars, but I'm not one of those people. With that said, Ahsoka Season 2 has a lot of potential. There's a lot of cool concepts to work with. But until Dave Filoni can fully get the character interactions right, I'm just going to remain cautiously optimistic. It's still my most anticipated Star Wars project, but like, I really need Dave to lock the freaking, like how he locks in for the animated shows. And lastly, we have Star Wars The Ninth Jedi. So for those who don't know, there's an anime called Star Wars Visions, which is an anime that was funded by Disney. The whole appeal of Visions was that it was meant to allow Japanese animation studios to come together and create a Star Wars episode of their own. Japanese animation studios that you probably heard of, like Trigger, Wit, who's the other guy? The one who did Attack on Titan. Why am I forgetting their name? But those animation studios, Disney basically got all of these, they basically funded a bunch of these studios to come together and let these studios go crazy in making an episode of Star Wars on their own. All of these episodes were non-canon, as they were meant to be an artist's interpretation of what they see Star Wars being like. So season 1 was fully Japanese animated. Season 2 was now globally animated. And then season 3, they went back to Japan studios to animate it. So as I said, Visions is like fully non-canon, but it is Star Wars anime. It's officially licensed Star Wars anime. And one of those anime episodes was Star Wars The Ninth Jedi. So The Ninth Jedi is the first episode, at the very least, is heavily celebrated for being one of the best episodes of Visions in totality. The Ninth Jedi follows the story of a little girl who believes in the Jedi and wants to become one of them, or at the very least believes in the hope of the Jedi. So she goes out on an adventure to go find the other Jedi and bring hope to the galaxy again. It's very much another story of the Jedi are borderline extinct and the Sith are ruling the galaxy, but of course it's done through an anime lens and there's a different type of story they're telling with it. A lot of people really love The Ninth Jedi, and again, they touted it as the best episode from Visions. I'm not one of those people. I think The Ninth Jedi is overrated. Come fight me. That's not to say it's bad. I like it. I think it's a good episode. I just don't think it's as good as everyone says it is. And also, I do think it's a tad bit overrated. With that said, The Ninth Jedi definitely did hit a soft spot in Disney, because a sweet spot in Disney, if you want to say that, because again, the fans really loved it, and they loved it so much that Disney not only greenlit a second episode, but they also greenlit an entire show. So yeah, The Ninth Jedi is getting a full-on anime show that's coming to Disney Plus next year. So yeah, we already do have a taste of what The Ninth Jedi looks like. The first episode is in season 1 of Visions, and then the second episode was dropped. The first episode is very much like the pilot. It's a proof of concept. And then the second episode, which is more or less like an epilogue / part 2 to the first episode, is on season 3 of Visions. So episode 1 is in season 1, episode 2 is in season 3 of Star Wars Visions. And then we're getting a full show. Now, I think it's like 12 episodes if I'm not wrong. We're getting a full season 1 show coming to Disney Plus next year. Is it November or October if I'm not wrong? So The Ninth Jedi was the lucky one. Out of all the shorts that all these Japanese animation studios made for Disney, out of every episode we got from Visions, Ninth Jedi was the one that was able to come out victorious in the end, and Disney was able to greenlight a full series. So this is going to be interesting, because this is basically going to be our first non-canon but fully funded official anime that Star Wars is gonna get. And I will say, while I'm not in love with the Ninth Jedi episode, I do love the idea of a non-canon anime that's, again, like fully official and fully like being part of the bigger projects. Because if you ask me, I think it's about time Star Wars actually started delving into projects that were non-canon. I don't mean non-canon in the sense like Detours, which is like fully non-canon, but it's also a comedic series. I meant like a non-canon material that has its own ongoing story. A lot of people have been begging Star Wars to like redo the Legends novels, or at the very least continue the Legends stories, but they stopped doing that because they want to push more canon books. I think this is a great way to kind of appease both sides of the fandom, because Ninth Jedi is very much Legends. At the very least, it's very much non-canon. And by being non-canon Star Wars, we get to explore new ideas that we can't explore in the canon. Like, for example, in the non-canon, in the Ninth Jedi, we see Sith. They're not two Sith. They don't follow the rule of two. There's an entire army of Sith, and they all rule the galaxy. Another thing in the Ninth Jedi is, of course, we see that you don't have to be a specific age to be trained by the Jedi. And, of course, they change a lot of abilities with the Force. And I think this is really cool. By having a non-canon Star Wars show, you get to play fast fast and loose with the rules of what the Force can do, what it means to be a Jedi, and so on and so forth. I think there's a lot of good stuff to play with when it comes to non-canon material. You take the canon stuff you take the stuff that the canon has given you and you mess around with it. You mess around with that base material and you create something new out of it. Something that is very much your own, but still feels like Star Wars at the end of the day. So even though, again, while I'm not the biggest fan of The Ninth Jedi, I am very excited for this new series, as I'm interested to see what new concepts and storytelling mechanics they plan to bring in that you simply just can't do in regular Star Wars. And I think if done right, this could be one of the best Star Wars projects. And it will be hilarious that the non-canon project is one of the better ones, in all honesty. And so those are all the big Star Wars projects that are coming out next year. I told you this would be a short video. So while we're on the topic, I figured I would just branch out a bit more and look into what Star Wars has in the coming years. So as far as we can tell, a lot of Star Wars projects have been cancelled. The Lando movie / show is on hold. Rogue Squadron is on hold. And what's the other thing that's on hold? And the Taika Waititi movie is basically on hold and probably never gonna happen. However, there are a couple of other projects that have been floated around, and while they've not been fully confirmed, I do want to talk about them. So the first project we're getting post Mando and Grogu that's confirmed is Star Wars Starfighter. This one was confirmed at Star Wars Celebration earlier this year. And no, this is not a trailer. Much like the mall thing, this is not a real trailer. This is just using clips from other movie and some AI. With that said, this movie is confirmed and it is happening. It is going through filming right now, and it was confirmed earlier this year at Star Wars Celebration. I am very happy that this movie exists, as it's a movie and a concept that no Star Wars fan has thought of, nor have we wanted. From what I can gather about this movie, because really we don't have a lot of information on it, is that we know it's the first movie taking place post-sequels. This movie takes place 15 years after The Rise of Skywalker, so it's very much in the sequels era, and it's the only post-sequels content that we've gotten or are getting so far. And all I know about the movie is that at least one of the characters played by why am I forgetting his name? The guy who played Ken in Barbie. Why am I forgetting his name? Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? Ryan Gosling, that's right, Ryan Gosling. We know that one of the characters, that main character is Ryan Gosling, and I think he's a pilot, if I'm not wrong. That's basically all the information we know about the movie. We don't know about who the villain is, we don't know what the general concept is, nothing. All we know is that it takes place after Rise of Skywalker, which on that note interests me a lot, because I think one of the biggest things fans have said about Star Wars is that Disney is so creatively bankrupt, we don't know what projects they could greenlight or tell in the sequel era / post-sequels era. The only thing we got is Resistance, and everyone agreed Resistance wasn't good. So I'm interested to see what story they actually have to tell post-sequel era that isn't just the Empire is coming back in another form. But I guess we'll have to wait and see, because the movie is coming out in May of 2027. I do find it interesting how Star Wars and Marvel have switched release dates, because if you guys remember, before the pandemic, Star Wars used to dominate the December holiday release date, while Marvel got May. Because like Avengers Endgame, no, Infinity War came out in May of 2018, and then Endgame came out in late April, early May of 2019, while Star Wars The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker came out in December of 2017 and 2019 respectively. So that's interesting that they've switched release dates. Now Star Wars is coming out in May, Mando and Grogu is coming out. So now they've switched the release dates. So Star Wars is coming out in May, Mando and Grogu is coming out in May of 26, Starfighter is coming out in May of 27, and the Avengers movies are coming out in December. So again, Doomsday in December of 26 and Secret Wars in December of 27. So they switched release dates. I don't know if this means that Marvel has a stronger foothold, or that their movies are sure to gain $1 billion, or if Star Wars, and you know, Star Wars has kind of lost a lot of respect and hype from the fans, that not everyone's willing to go see Star Wars again. Star Wars doesn't have the strong foothold over the cinemas as it used to. Or maybe it's because these Star Wars movies that are coming out are not mainline Skywalker Saga movies, and Disney wants to experiment with them. Therefore, they're giving them a safer release date. I don't know. All I know is that it's interesting that they've swapped release dates like that, and we're in this position now. But anyway, Starfighter is the only other confirmed Star Wars project that is coming out that's not in 2026. Everything else is up in the air. Again, we don't know if Ahsoka is getting a season 3. We don't know if Mando is getting a season 4. Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi seem pretty much cancelled. I don't think Skeleton Crew is getting another season. And we don't know if that Simon Kinberg trilogy is still happening. So basically, after Mando and Grogu and Starfighter, we don't know when anything is coming out or if anything is being in the works right now, which I think is good. I think it's good Disney's pulling back on a lot of Star Wars projects and trying to focus more on quality over quantity. I would not mind it if we got like one movie and two shows every year. I think that's something stable that we can all keep up with. And the shows don't even have to be connected to the Skywalker saga. They can be their own thing. You know, they don't need to be connected to that main time period. With that said, let me just talk about these shows and movies and when I think they're coming out. Because I always like to do these little prediction games with myself to guess when each show and movie is coming out. We already have an official. Oh, the other thing that was rumored to come out was the Thrawn movie. I don't know why I forgot that. Yeah, the Thrawn movie, the Dave Filoni Thrawn movie, that's rumored to come out. That one, last I remember being checked in that movie is supposed to be sort of an adaptation of Heir to the Empire, the Heir to the Empire books, that is, where Thrawn is the main villain, and it will most likely have the original trilogy cast and the Mandoverse cast coming together to fight Thrawn. But again, we don't know much about that movie. We don't even know if it's in development yet. Last I checked, Disney isn't even planning to make that movie. This is last I checked, but last I checked, Disney will only make the Thrawn movie, or they'll only greenlight the Thrawn movie if Mando and Grogu does well, because the Thrawn movie is going to be a sequel to Mando and Grogu. So basically, Dave Filoni needs to hope Jon Favreau locks the frick in, and Mandalorian and Grogu is not only good, but also gets a good reception and a good profit from the cinemas, so that the Thrawn movie will be greenlit. Because if Mando and Grogu fails, we'll most likely never get that Thrawn movie, which sucks in my opinion. I do think we do need a breather trilogy in between the original and sequels, and this could be a good saga to look into that, but it's still without the original trilogy cast, so is it even really worth it? It's kind of here and there. I would like the Thrawn movie, but I also fully get why we might not get it. All we have to do is hope Mandalorian and Grogu is good and successful. But that said, it is prediction time. So this is my prediction for when each movie and show is coming out. Well, we already have the movie dates. We know Starfighter is coming out in May 27, and we know that Mando Grogu is coming out in May 26. But let's talk about Maul Shadow Lord. So my prediction for the Darth Maul show is that since it's an animated show, and again, Star Wars doesn't go too long without giving us an animated show airing in the background, my prediction for the Maul show is that it's going to come out early 2026. And I know what you're probably thinking, Phoenix, we already know Mando and Grogu is coming out in May of 2026. And that movie already has a trailer. But how can you say Maul is coming out in early 2026 if we don't even have a trailer for it? Well, my simpleton Star Wars fan, let me remind you that Maul is a show. Not just a show, but it's a TV show airing on a streaming service. Streaming services have completely different marketing strategies when it comes to marketing than they do for movies. Movies need a trailer at least half a year in advance. Streaming services only really need to release a trailer like maybe 1 or 2 months in advance. It's never that serious when it comes to TV shows with them. And since Maul is an animated TV show, I don't see them sweating that much to release a lot of marketing for it. My prediction for when Maul is coming out is most likely going to be either late February or early March of 2026, which means that if we're to get a trailer for the show, we'll most likely get it either at the end of December or somewhere in the middle of January. That's my prediction for when we'll get news on the Maul show. And I do think it'll be the first project we get in 2026 for no other reason other than vibes. It's an animated show and it's based on Darth Maul. So Star Wars kind of needs a bit of a hype wave before we get to the movie. And then next is Ahsoka Season 2. My prediction for Ahsoka Season 2 coming out will be more or less the same time Season 1 came out. Season 1 came out in September of 2023, so that's my prediction for Season 2. I see it coming out more or less in August or September of next year. That way it will be a full 3 years since the last season, and it will also give some time for Mando and Grogu to breathe in cinemas. Because remember, Mando and Grogu and Ahsoka are all part of the Mandoverse, but Mando and Grogu would air in May. It would come out in May, so at least June, July, give it some time to breathe in cinemas, and then we get the Ahsoka TV show. So my prediction for Ahsoka is again August, September, around there. Nothing too crazy. And lastly, we have The Ninth Jedi. And this one is again just another case of pattern recognition, going off how Star Wars have released their anime and when their anime came out. My prediction for The Ninth Jedi will come out to most likely be late October, early November. Star Wars Vision Season 1 came out in November, if I'm not wrong. Season 2 came out in, I think that was middle of the year, like around May or June. Yeah, May. It came out in May. Season 2 came out in May. Vision Season 3 came out in late October this year. So it's very likely that we're going to get The Ninth Jedi probably around the same time next year, late October, early November. So that's what the release date looks like to me. So we're probably gonna get more Shadow Lord first, which comes out in the first half of the year. Mando and Grogu, which comes out in May. Ahsoka, which comes out in August, September. Let's say the fall era, and the Ninth Jedi, which comes out late fall, early spring. Those are my predictions for when we're gonna get Star Wars projects next year. Now, as for how excited I am about these projects, I'd like to say I'm fairly excited. I'm more leaning on cautiously optimistic, but again, it's Star Wars, and I'm always gonna hope the best for Star Wars, and I'm always gonna root for Star Wars. So I would like to say I'm cautiously optimistic and excited for this new slate. At least certainly way more than I was for the 2024 slate. If you guys remember that video. So yeah, but if I was to rate them based on how anticipated I am for each project and what I think has the most promise, I would say Ahsoka season two is still my most anticipated project. There's a lot riding on that show. I think a bit too much for just 8 episodes. There's a lot of cool concepts, and again, it's one of the few Star Wars projects that still tries to mythologize the Force. I think the last one that truly did that job well was like the Last Jedi, and yeah, so I'm excited for Ahsoka on that. Also got a lot of characters I'm really attached to and interested in. You know, you have Ahsoka, Anakin, Sabine, Ezra, Hera. Zeb is apparently rumored to come in season two, and oh, we got the villains as well, Balin and Shin, and who Thrawn as well. There's one more character as well. I'm trying to like remember. I don't know. I'm forgetting them. Um, but also characters I've just like really enjoyed from Rebels and from this show that I just want to see again in season two. And again, oh, Akbar, that's the guy who's coming into season two. So it should be fun to like just get all these characters mixed in well. And again, we're gonna have a back and forth between Akbar and Thrawn. I think that's really cool. If we're not gonna get the Thrawn movie, I guess this would be a nice close second. Thrawn just making himself public enemy number one to the galaxy. Number two is definitely Mando and Grogu. I mean, again, it's the first time we're getting a Star Wars movie in theaters after 7 years. I think it's time for Disney to like dust themselves off from the embarrassment that was Rise of Skywalker and just try their hand at making a good damn movie again. Hindsight is literally 40-40 for them. Like, even if I'm not expecting Mando Grogu to be a masterpiece, but we're not expecting Andor levels of writing here. I'm just expecting it to be a fun, good movie that does feel like Star Wars at the end of the day. That's it. I'm not asking for anything more. Set up for the next movie. That's all I want to ask. I just want a fun movie that also sets up the Thrawn movie pretty well. So yeah, bottom line is for these two projects, I'm just really hoping Dave Filoni and John Favreau cook. I'm hoping that Ahsoka season two is really good. It mythologizes the Force once more. I know the Andor fans are gonna hate it because for some reason they hate lightsabers and Force stuff in Star Wars, but whatever. And for Mando, I'm just hoping for a fun movie that isn't just Mando and Grogu fighting the Empire just for the lols. It does set up a future story that we can be excited for going forward. And then, of course, number three, we have Maul Shadowlord. As said, I'm not too big on giving Darth Maul more story. He's a character who already has enough story as is. But if you're gonna give him a story, I mean, fine. You know, him running the crime syndicate is interesting. Him training another apprentice is interesting. I'm interested to see where the story goes, and we know it's gonna end in failure, which is always just fun to see. Darth Maul trying over and over again to gain some foothold, some sort of power, and it collapsing on his face once again in failure. That's always a fun thing to see with the Darth Maul story. So this will be fun to enjoy. Again, I wonder if they'll try and fix that solo scene, or at the very least try and give a bit more substance to that solo scene. If not, the scene is still dumb. I'm sorry, I hate that scene in Solo so much. But everything else is fine. You know, let's just hope we actually get some good stuff from the Maul show. I'm not expecting for anything high art. I do expect it to be at least better than Bad Batch, though it's going to take a lot for it to be better than Rebels and Clone Wars. Yeah, I said it. Rebels is good. Deal with it. And then we have the Ninth Jedi. As said, I think the episode that it premiered in is very overrated. I think the Ninth Jedi Part 1 and 2 on Visions are overrated. They're pretty good for the story they want to tell, but I really need a bit more, which is what this show is going to give me. And so at the end of the day, all I can hope is that the actual official anime is really good and it deserves this green lighting. With that said, that's about it. That's all I have to say on these future Star Wars projects. I hope they're all good. I hope they all deliver. And I know it would be hard to capture that same magic that The Force Awakens left when it first came onto screen, but I do hope that we just get that Star Wars movie that reignites the fan base and gives us hope. Because that's all I want. Just hope for this franchise to get better and to become a main staple of the cinema, to become a juggernaut in the cinematic world once again. DC was able to pick themselves up, and that was only after 2 years after the DCU just fell on its face. Marvel is trying to make their comeback. They still produce some solid stuff. Don't let people make you think that they died in 2021. They have been producing some solid stuff, but it seems like they're really planning to make a full comeback after Secret Wars and Star Wars. I just really hope that they do get their lick back with Mando and Grogu. If the Maul show isn't the first Star Wars project we get next year, it'll most likely be Mandalorian and Grogu, which I also wouldn't mind because at least I'll set the tone for the rest of Star Wars projects to come. So I'm calling it. It's either Maul or Mando and Grogu that's going to become mean first in 2026. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic and I'm hopeful as always. Let's just hope to be pleasantly surprised. I know some people are not excited for next year, but yeah. Anyway, guys, you tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. What Star Wars project are you most excited for? What are you looking forward to next year? And what are your hopes? And what are your thoughts on Star Wars going forward? Are you excited? Are you apathetic? Or are you just down with the franchise? Let me know down in the comments down below. Be sure to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell to be part of the team, slap a cow and with that, I'll break up to you, and I will see you in another universe. Goodbye, my Rangers.